Hello, welcome to this few-part tutorial regarding After Effects and Black Ops 2. So, let's create a new composition. New composition for footage creates a composition, basically your project file, that has properties from your video. So if it's one video, it'll be the same resolution and FPS, but we don't want that. We want the FPS to be 24 for regular game edits, 21 for wrap is what I like to do, 18 for glitch, and 15 for atmospheric. So, one thing you should always do, check the resolution of your clips. So, I do that. Go to my recordings, find the clip, delete these ones, find the POV, find the POV or clip you're using, show my options if you're on Windows 11 or just properties if you're on Windows 10, details, and look at the frame width and frame height, 2560 x 1080. You can see the clip at 600 FPS, that's what most Black Ops 2 clips are going to be recorded in, but some can be 300 to even 1000. 2560 x 1080, 2560 x 1080. I like to lock aspect ratio whenever, so when I upscale it to 4K, I just need to times one of the values by 2 instead of both. So, cool, it's made. Now, I usually, off the bat, like to do Control S, and you'll just type in tutorial for BO2. So now we have the composition. I'll just rename it to Meltdown because that's the name of the song I'm going to be using. Double click the file panel on the left to import clips. So I'll just go to videos, media downloader, downloads. I'll add the song. This is from the new Utopia album. I liked it, so it's pretty cool. You can double press L to get the waveform. So you can see, press L once to get access to the audio levels. I usually like to set mine at -6 off the bat. It's easier for me to edit, but I can always change it back at the end. So, in case your After Effects is lagging as well, you'd want the preferences, memory, wait for the submenu to open, allocate some RAM. I usually just keep it from 5 to 7 for other applications, but you should always leave some extra. Don't listen to me in that regard. Then edit, purge all memory disk cache for your cache. I'm not sure if it'll make your A run smoother, but it just clears up space. Of course, it is kind of laggy. As you can see here, there's a drop here, because you can see with the spike. Press B to set the start of your workspace, end to end, set the end. I just do this to preview small areas, and I do it incrementally.
T-time like I got a cup of this shit. T-time like golf at a quarter. T-time, T-time, T-time. T-time like I got a cup of this shit.
Yeah, that was horrible. I'm not syncing like that. Delete all markers, set one here. You can, by the way, you can place markers with the asterisk key on your numpad. It's on the right divide, left of the minus key. Or you can do Shift +8 to create labeled markers. So if you should do, Shift plus any number. My bad. So like Shift +1, you can create that, etc. So I've got 3 sync points set up. Cool. If you want, you can label them 1. If you want, you can label them 1. You can double click these as well to mark them after the fact. And cool tidbit, you can even make them a certain duration. For example, 2 minutes. Go all the way up. You can see this little white line that's created, but I don't want it to be like that. So cool. Now, let's go to videos and find the clip. So this one, you can see its properties as well here, but not the frame width. It's 600 FPS, 5.5 gigs. Cool. Just, if you ever want to know. Drag it into the timeline, and here you have your clip. So I am just going to make this. I'm just going to find the point where I want the clip to start. So I want to start when he starts to cock back. So I'm going to press Control-Shift-D, which allows for the clip to get trimmed. The left side is the one that was before the point, and right one is after. After Effects works in layers, so keep that in mind. Delete the old one. And at the top here, sometimes you'll see a hand tool select, like this is what your cursor will look like. This is often when you're, navigating the timeline. I just press V as a hotkey instinctively whenever I see that come up, because I don't really need it. Second, scrub through your edit, find the point where you want it to end. So I want it to end around here. Like in terms of like the animation, as you can see, just threw the mag out. So that's where I want it to stop. So cool. So now we've got a whole POV, but we haven't actually time remapped it. Let's get that done. Press Control Alt T to enable time remapping, and then this little sub-menu will pop out from the layer. This diamond is how you enable keyframing in every single After Effects effect. There's also certain effects that will have a timer in the effect panel after you add an effect to your adjustment layer or clip. That will, when you click the timer, it'll bring up this sub-menu for that option, and click this diamond for the keyframe. So I'll set keyframe here and set keyframe at the end. So now we've got that whole point of time. So now you can also change the viewpoint, viewport, how zoomed in it is. I always recommend fit, but I always like the view a bit smaller. Also, one thing I'd recommend, if you head towards preferences, edit preferences, autosave, you can change the amount of change the time it saves. I put it 5 minutes because I always care about my After Effects accidentally crashing, and I think you should too. So on the first marker, that's where the clip starts. You keep one marker there. Second, you keep it. So second, what I like to do, 1 frame before the beat, move this little dial, which is where it controls the time basically. Set it to the point before the scope is about to enter before the scope is about to enter the overlay, which is this. Then just drag this to a point where it looks cool, he's looking at the guy, cool. It's not just looking at somewhere else. Now 1 frame after, move the dial to where he moves out, like that, cool. You can go frame by frame with Control arrow key or page up, page down. I myself use page up, page down because I'm used to it. Now we'll go to point 3, Control Shift D it, and move this point that was previously there here. So now it's shorter, the duration is shorter. But now we need to make some impact for the, we need to add impact with the velocity. So we go 1, 2, 3 frames back from the end. This 3-point velocity, it gives more depth to your velocity, and in turn makes your edit look, better. But it's subjective, but in most cases it looks really nice. I recommend, if you have a reload animation like this, changing it to a point where the hand is about to leave the gun, so around maybe here, and keeping the endpoint the same. Now we're going to do 3-point velocity on the first part as well. So imagine it's 2 halves. So I'll just set a marker there. This is half 1 with the scope in. This is half 2 with the scope out. Half out, second half, we'll add 3-point velocity, and first part we'll add 3-point velocity. More depth on both sides, and it'll look pretty nice. So from the scope out overlay, scope out about scope in, go 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 frames is fine. You can go 3 to 5. I recommend 3, and change the dial to the point where the animation is about to start. So around here. Cool. So now we've got some set velocity. I'll change my workspace so it's just this amount, so it's easier and quicker to preview. So while that does its thing, I'll hover over all of my keyframes and press F9. Just hold left click and select F9, or you can right click, keyframe assistant, and easy ease. But the shortcut is F9, which is what I recommend you use, because shortcuts make life always easier. Now, when you open the graph editor after selecting the keyframe, make sure you select the keyframe, graph editor. You'll see there's a point before your first keyframe and after your end. These are just points that are automatically made after time remapping from the start and the end of the clip. I just delete these because I don't like the addition of them in the graph editor. Now it's way cleaner, but they don't really affect anything in your project. So let's start with some basic velocity. For the start of the clip, you want to match movement from the end. So let's say you had a cinematic that ended quick. You'd want to start it like this. Or if a cinematic ended slow, because this, let me show you this graph. Time speed, it goes quick like this. So, and for here, we want to create a great sense of impact and flow, I guess you could say. A great sense of impact and sensation with this little end bit. Dragging this down so it's slower and matches the movement of this keyframe before. So now, you'll get something like this. Pretty cool. Now let's go to the end. Scope out overlay. Oh, not scope out overlay, it's scope out. open the graph editor after you select it. This magnifying key, by the way, auto zooms the graph height. You can use this, but I myself don't because I like to untick it and hold control and scroll wheel to identify, like to make this bigger and in turn have more control over it. I don't recommend ever putting it straight up because it can look very sharp and bad, so you want to try and match it with the graph before it. So this one is sort of at an angle, so you want to make this one also at a sort of angle, like this. And this one also at not fully straight. If you hold shift, you can make it fully horizontally. I'd recommend that only for text animation because you're not really losing any frames there because it's pre-made text. But with clips, I recommend putting it just a bit down unless it's the vibe you're going for it to be smoother and no frame drops. And at the end, do the same thing with the first part. Make it end quick, like this. Of course, if you find a point where one end is influenced like by the other, so like if you move this one up and this one moves like as well, you could just reselect it and it won't happen.